Trước khi bắt đầu, nếu bạn đang tìm kiếm sách để học IELTS hiệu quả, thì đây là những cuốn sách chúng mình khuyên dùng. Nó có thể giúp bạn đạt điểm IELTS từ 7.0 tới 8.0. Bạn hãy xem ở phần giỏ hàng trong kênh nhé.
Section 1. You will hear a woman telephoning a doctor.
Good morning, Dr. Smith speaking. How can I help you?
Well, I've been getting headaches frequently, so I'd like to get some advice.
Okay. Firstly, how did you hear about us?
My friend Mrs. Harris told me that you did some good work for her a couple of years ago. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. I remember Mrs. Harris. I appreciate her compliment. So, tell me about your headaches.
The headaches usually last about a week. Sometimes it is so severe that I can't continue my work. Could you tell me what is going wrong?
Sorry to hear that. We will have to look further into this. I want to know, did you have headaches before?
No, I didn't suffer headaches previously. I've just been having them recently. Perhaps for 3 months or so?
I see. Well, I suggest that you should have an optic examination first. Do you know where the local optic examination center is?
No, I haven't been there before. Would you please tell me how to get there?
Of course. From here, you go along Shore Lane. You will see some crossroads, but remember to take a turn on the third one. Then go straight down Bridge Street. Keep going and then turn left at the first traffic light. It is right there.
Got it.
Now, what I'll do is fill in a form with you to find out a little bit more about your medical history and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, can I take your name?
It's Anu Bhatt.
Could you spell it, please?
Yes. ANUBHATT.
And where do you live?
Oh, I live in my parents' house on 21 Eagle Road. That's EAGLE Road, London.
Oh, I often go to London on weekends too. It's a lovely city. And what's the postcode there?
AL2 1DY.
Now, I need to know your family medical history. Have either of your parents had any medical problems?
Yes, my mother has shellfish allergies, while my dad doesn't. Oh, right. Both of my parents have had toothache for most of their lives.
Okay, thanks. There is one more thing I need to take care of. Have you had an allergic reaction to any medicines before?
No, that hasn't happened before.
Okay, I'll make a note of that. I'll write none here. I think we are finished here for now.
Thank you. See you later.
See you then.
Section 2. You will hear a programme on a student radio station. It describes the findings of a survey on vacation jobs taken by students the previous year.
Welcome to student life. It's spring, and many of you may be thinking about arranging work for the long vacation. So on today's programme, Roger Anwell reports on a survey we conducted into the pleasures and problems of vacation jobs. Roger.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, the first thing to say is that by far the majority of students we surveyed did just 3 types of jobs. All of these obviously had their advantages and disadvantages. Starting with stock taking in supermarkets. The thing that students said they enjoyed most about this job was the travelling. They were often required to go to branches to do their stock takes, and this was regarded as an interesting plus. The main negative, however, was that they tended to find the job tiring, with long hours spent on their feet and climbing high shelves. Now, one thing we did ask the students in our survey was whether they had any recommendations for other people taking on their job, and they said, perhaps not surprisingly, get good shoes. That's the only way you can keep going. Another job which lots of students did was office work, and the positive feature of this actually rather surprised me, until I remembered what a hot summer it was last year. Lots of students named air conditioning as the best thing about office work. The downside, which many talked about, was wearing formal clothes. Obviously, this didn't go down too well with students. The advice most people gave was to select a large office. That way you have more variety of social contacts. Otherwise, the work can get very boring. The third job, which had attracted large numbers of students, was as a theme park attendant. And again, I got a surprise here, because the big plus people talked about was good pay. It must have improved since my day, I must say. Anyway, the downside I did recognise, having to deal with difficult customers, especially in the heat when tempers get frayed. Not easy. And people said that it was a good idea to live nearby, because there's a lot of shift work, and you don't have to worry about transport at difficult times of the day. So, those were the findings from the survey on the most common student jobs. But not all student jobs have to be mundane and boring. One of the students who responded in our survey spoke at length about his amazing job as a zoo attendant. Peter Marshall had read about work opportunities on the zoo website and just went along with a friend to talk to someone in personnel. He was offered a job there and then, as easy as that. In previous years, he'd done singularly unexciting shop work, so he was very pleased to be doing such original work. He ended up working for just under 3 months, which was actually slightly more than he'd anticipated, and meant that he had to miss part of university term time. But he said it was well worth it, because he thinks he's found his future career path as a result of this experience. He loved working on the educational side, in particular helping young kids understand about the animals in their natural environment. He said it was the most intriguing thing he'd ever done. He tells us, though, that with final exams coming up, he won't be able to do any paid work this coming vacation, so why don't you apply? If you're interested in getting further information about the findings of the survey...
Bạn đang nghe podcast miễn phí tại IELTS. Nếu bạn yêu quý kênh, hãy ủng hộ chúng mình ở phần mô tả nha.
Section 3. You will hear an art history student called Jack talking to a lecturer, Dr. Rubin, about an English artist called Samuel Prout.
Dr. Rubin?
Hello, Jack. So have you chosen which artist you're going to give your presentation on?
Yes, Samuel Prout, the 19th century English watercolour painter.
Right. Interesting choice. I always feel he never quite got the fame he deserved, did he?
No, I think that's true. I mean, I don't think he ever went completely out of vogue, even though tastes and fashions come and go. He was really prolific in his day, but there's never really been a high-profile showing of his paintings. That could have brought him to more people's attention.
Sure. But I think it's remarkable that he achieved any critical success given the problems that he had. Apparently he was prone to chronic chest infections throughout his life.
Yes, it must have been hard for him. But it seems he had a loving wife and family.
And a strong network of colleagues and supporters.
Yeah, I've been trying to find out what got him interested in painting in the first place. He doesn't seem to have learned the skill from his father, like so many artists of his time.
No, well, I think he painstakingly reproduced other painters' works, essentially sort of schooling himself. And then later on, he actually became an art teacher. How do you feel about Prout's style of painting?
It's interesting how a lot of artists, you can see how their style is developing as their work matures, but not so much with Prout. He seemed to have several on the go all at the same time.
Yes, with others you can say, oh, that must be by so-and-so and painted in around 1820, say.
Right, but not so much with Prout.
Of course, Prout's career had a huge boost when the art critic John Ruskin declared him a great artist.
Yes, but Ruskin's assessment was quite biased, wasn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, Ruskin admired Prout, and he didn't seem to mind the fact that many of his paintings showed more or less the same thing, European street scenes, or that the people in Prout's pictures can look rather wooden and not very lifelike.
For me, His detailing of architecture was too predictable. But for Ruskin, that was where Prout's genius lay.
Well, I guess that's what Ruskin was particularly interested in.
OK, Jack, so your brief was to prepare a presentation to give to the group and show some pictures associated with the artist, each of which makes a key point about their work, OK?
Right. Well, I wanted to start with A View in Germany at Würzburg. It's a detailed watercolour showing a busy market scene with a background of flamboyant detail like in so many of his pictures.
Yes, basically what Prout had made his name doing so well. It really gives the flavour of his work.
Right.
OK.
There's a painting called Bridge on the Ouse near York, except that experts now think this isn't York at all, but somewhere in the south of England.
Right.
But as far as I know, the picture has never been renamed.
No, that would make cataloguing and researching Prout's pictures more complicated.
And the next one is called Woodland Scene. This one has a signature. It says S. Prout in the bottom left. But even so, experts on Prout say they doubt he actually painted it.
Yes, I remember reading that detailing is too clumsy, with the sun not casting shade in the right place.
Exactly. And there's a lot of blue that basically doesn't appear in any other Prout pictures. So it's probably a forgery?
Yes. And what's the next one?
Venice. It's a view from the Grand Canal with some rather grand buildings. They're bathed in sunlight with a sort of picturesque shadow cast by the buildings opposite, which is shown brilliantly.
Lovely use of colour. Prout at his best, I think.
Right. And then there's Entrance to a Harbour.
Right, he grew up by the sea, didn't he?
Yes, in Plymouth. He didn't specialise in seascapes, but this same location with the harbour and the sea also appear in other pictures, showing a range of weather conditions. They don't all have figures like this one, but I think they're really well done.
Right. Well, now you've obviously thought...
Section 4. You will hear a university lecture on the early development of the telescope.
Good morning. Today's lecture is about the development of the telescope up until the end of the 17th century. We can trace the telescope's earliest form back to the 1200s. History records Roger Bacon as possibly the first to invent a magnifying glass. The principal use of his invention was for reading. This proved to be a benefit mostly for researchers who, until then, had been forced to give up working while still relatively young because of impaired vision. In 1608, a Dutch astronomer called Luyện discovered that if convex and concave lenses were put together, they created a magnifying glass through which things at a distance could be seen. He created a miniature telescope. It was so small that initially people took it to the theater for a better view of the stage. Galileo found out about Luyent's invention in the spring of 1609 and immediately set about improving it. Galileo experimented with different lenses, combining a weak convex lens with a strong concave lens. He discovered that this intensified the strength of the instrument. Unfortunately, the lenses the opticians were making for glasses were unsatisfactory for what Galileo wanted to do, as they did not have powerful enough magnification. Galileo therefore decided that to solve his problem, he would have to start the production of his own lenses. Eventually, he achieved a magnification about 9 times more than you could see with the naked eye. An enormous improvement over everything else on the market. Galileo then decided to approach the Senate of Venice to demonstrate the improved instrument. Many senators were eager to try the new telescope and climbed the highest bell towers in Venice to look through the glass at ships far out to sea. The government of Venice were impressed by his invention's obvious potential. and envisioned the advantages this eyeglass could have for the Army. His first major astronomical discovery with the telescope was that the moon's surface was mountainous and not a perfect sphere as it had always been assumed. During the lunar cycle of 28 days, he found that the shadows seemed to vary with the light. Galileo also figured out how to estimate the altitude of the mountains on the moon by looking for bright spots in the dark areas. Galileo looked for the spots when it was a half moon, and with geometry was able to calculate the elevation of the mountains. From these calculations, he was able to draw charts of the terrain and show the altitudes of the mountains. In 1610, Galileo's next major discovery was regarding Jupiter. Using a magnification telescope 20 times the strength of his previous ones, he looked at Jupiter on successive nights. His main observation was a trio of what initially seemed to be small stars close to Jupiter. However, by the 15th night, he realized that they were going around the planet in a daily orbit, and that, in fact, they were moons, not stars. And 3 days later, he saw a fourth one. This discovery showed how important a telescope was for astronomers. They would now be able to see celestial objects that could not previously be seen by the naked eye. In the later 1600s, scientists started to make a stronger telescope, revealing the galaxy. Scientists realized that when they increased the length of the telescope, the intensity of magnification improved significantly. One such telescope was created in 1656 and magnified over 100 times. It had the incredible length of 4 meters. Telescopes continued to become longer over the next few years. And in fact, the astronomer Haverius built one in 1670 that was 43 meters long. However, these telescopes were soon to prove useless for accurate observation because the slightest wind caused the instrument to shift. Finally, in 1675, astronomers abandoned the tube telescope and instead mounted the telescope on a building. Telescopes like this were called aerial telescopes. Scientists hoped that the stability of the mount would decrease the frustration when observing stars. Well, that's about it for today, and so
Bạn đang nghe podcast miễn phí tại IELTS. Nếu bạn yêu quý kênh, hãy ủng hộ chúng mình ở phần mô tả nha.